Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you for your time. My name is Akshita. I'm the founder and CEO of inirv, where our mission is ultimately to save you time in the kitchen by using smart technology to bring safety and automation to cooking. So we already have hundreds of smart devices in the home, but the kitchen lags behind, largely because appliances last for decades, and appliance manufacturers, the ones in charge of innovation in the kitchen, are not that great at technology. And if you look at the smart appliances that they have released, they're way too expensive for the average consumer and don't really provide enough value to justify the cost. Now, this all really came to light when a few years ago, my mom was cooking in my house, got distracted, like many of us do, walked out and started a kitchen fire. At the time, I just wanted to find a solution to make sure that my parents were safe while cooking. They're getting older, but then realized that unattended cooking is actually a huge problem. So it's the number one cause of house fires, leads to over $1 billion in damage every year. Um, and at the time, as I looked around the home, I started to see all of these really simple devices pop up, like thermostats and doorbells and door locks. And the common theme was how intuitive they all were to use and how easily they fit and retrofitted with your existing home. So I thought, why can't we bring that approach to the kitchen and bring, simple products that can work with your existing appliances that not only bring you peace of mind, but actually open opportunity for automation that creates a new way of cooking that's better, easier, and faster. And so we created the first connected device, which you can see here, which basically replaces the knobs on any gas or electric stove, turning it into a smart appliance in just minutes. So these are Wi-Fi connected with built-in motors, so they can automatically adjust temperature based on different scenarios. So for example, if you do leave the stove on, we can actually detect that, automatically turn it off. But then you can also remotely monitor. So if you leave the house, you have a moment of panic, just like you check your security camera, you can check our app to make sure that your stove is off. As we researched our customer base, we really started to, realize that home automation is on the rise, and people are actively searching for ways to make cooking less cumbersome. So, the number one Alexa skill used in the entire home is a cooking timer, and of course, there's the rise of meal kit and grocery delivery. And so this really got us thinking bigger as to how we can use this product as a wedge into the kitchen, and allow us to ultimately build an ecosystem of products that can automate cooking and also leverage data to save you time. So what that means is additional sensors that can give us precise information about what you're cooking. So we can react in real time, like a temperature probe or a camera. And importantly, we now have access to data that none of the major players have. So, who's cooking, how often, the time of day, what recipes they're using, all of which we can actually use to take the guesswork out of planning and provide inspiration based on your cooking history. So the market is huge. I mean, there are 145 million stoves installed in the US alone. So that gives us a total market opportunity of $22 billion. But even our initial market of the 25 million households with, adults with kids under 18 at home gives us a $5 billion opportunity. We make money in two ways. So first, we sell our hardware, which initially we're focused on our direct-to-consumer channels, but ultimately we'll scale through channel partners like apartment and retirement communities, insurance providers, and appliance manufacturers. Our integrated software also allows us to generate recurring revenue through monitoring content and licensing. To date, we have over $1.3 million in pre-orders, so that's now close to 8,000 people on our wait list. We also have pilots with major partners like Bosch, large apartment complexes and senior living communities across the country. We have issued IP, and we graduated from Techstars last year. We also were on Shark Tank, in case you watched the show. We've really come this far because of an amazing team with backgrounds ranging from consumer behavior and IoT development, specifically in the home, to mass manufacturing and AI. And we're now actually in the middle of a $2 million raise that will allow us to scale production, reach 50,000 customers by the end of 2021, expand our software capabilities, file additional IP, and expand our team. So the connected home is exploding, and companies like Nest and Ring really prove the value of reimagining items we use every day in our homes. We're here to finally reimagine the kitchen and forever transform the way we cook at home. Hope you'll join us on that journey. Thank you.
Awesome, Akshita. Thank you so much. I love the casual Shark Tank reference. Oh, by the way, we
2
were on
minutes.
Shark Tank
Same.
too. Yeah, no, that was awesome. Thank you. Dr. Shantae, Steve, do you want to join us? And yeah, feel free to dive in.
So very good presentation. I was hoping you were going to say you invented Rosie from the Jetsons, and then I don't have to cook anymore.
We're getting there.
So that's the next level. That's what I'm holding out for. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Really interesting. So I see that you've got some good pre-order traction. What's the gap between you filling those orders, and how far out are you from really converting those customers into paying customers and moving forward?
We're about 6 weeks out. What our biggest kind of rate limiting step is scaling manufacturing. So right now we're hand assembling everything, which is just not effective, but I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. And so all of our tooling, our molds, our plastics, our motors are done. The only thing left to actually build is our electronics line, which we're actually doing down in Florida. We've got a contract manufacturer, but we need the capital to be able to kind of invest in that. And then getting that up and running is 4 to 6 weeks. So we'll be shipping within like 60 days of this investment at the most.
That's awesome. That was the only question I actually had, Steve.
Yeah, I would say great presentation, good structure, good flow. I always like to see a little bit, maybe more detail on just the use of the proceeds. $2 million. Here's exactly what it's going to go to, and the timing associated with that. Good, thank you. And in particular, the sales and marketing is kind of interesting to me. I always, if you've ever, for those people that have logged on, they hear me say this like every time I'm a panelist, so I'll apologize ahead of time. But with what appears to be a fantastic product and a great story, and I wonder why the route to market would even involve the consumer. If you have IP that can be protected, it seems to me to be a B2B channel business all the way. License the IP, develop partnerships with the Bosches of the world like you are. Direct to consumer stuff is just so expensive on the sales and marketing side. And so I'd like to hear you talk a little bit about whether or not that's really a long-term play, or if that was just kind of, a lot of people use it as the kind of pre-commerce play to develop sales and get some awareness, but do you really see yourself as a consumer company going forward?
Sure. So I see us as a consumer company on the software side and a B2B company on the hardware side eventually. The reason why I'm not putting all my eggs in the B2B basket is because appliance manufacturers are notoriously slow. And they're just not good at innovation, and I do not want to get lost in what they do. And so, if you look at some of the companies that have focused on solely working with appliance manufacturers, they're not growing because they're reliant on appliance manufacturers actually selling connected appliances. So you've got a bunch of smart recipe companies, a bunch of software companies in it, drop that work with appliance manufacturers, and they're growing really slowly. And so our goal is to first use this next year. We're seeing good traction on the direct-to-consumer side. If we can keep that cost low to build a strong customer base while we build those partnerships, which will just ultimately add value to those partnerships. And also, ultimately, I want to own I don't want to be reliant on the appliance manufacturer. And with this, I can own the entire consumer journey. I can own the data, I can own the content, I can own the experiences. And that is what an appliance manufacturer will ultimately pay for, and what they'll ultimately partner with us for. And then at that point, we can license it. You take care of the hardware, we'll take care of the software.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that would be interesting woven into, in a very light way, woven into the deck as well too.
Sure.
So another follow-on question. I always would like to know, especially in spaces like this where there's big competition from major players, slow as they may be, as you indicated.
Sure.
How defensible do you feel like the IP is? I'm not familiar with this part of the device space, and so I don't know, if you feel like you've really got strong protection there.
So, I mean, IP only it takes you so far. I mean, our goal is that, we file what we have a patent already on the device itself. We file additional IP that covers, both the hardware and the software. Build a robust patent portfolio that, in terms of competitors, the system is defensible because we're combining hardware with experiences, which again, appliance manufacturers will I know they will not be able to compete with. The kind of defensibility though is really around kind of first to market and then building that consumer experience. Again, appliance manufacturers are slow. So even if they could do this today, they could just run over us in terms of the IP and it wouldn't matter. But I know that it'll take them at least a decade before they can actually penetrate the market by building a new appliance. And so our goal is in the next 5 years, people are not buying new appliances, and we can reach 1 million customers, build that value, integrate with them, and then go from there. So the defensibility is really just, around the system itself and what we're building on top of it.
Yeah. Last little bit, excellent answers, by the way, you got great command of the content. I know you kind of mentioned that part of the target market was going to be multi-tenant. That seems to make perfect sense to me. Lots of installations with a single customer, and I think apartment complexes, nursing home, places like this seem to be an absolutely fantastic target. So I was excited to hear you say that. I think it'd be a great part of the sales and marketing strategy. The question I have is, unlike I'm a nerd software guy, so I got all sorts of stuff that half works around my house, equipment and such. Mm-hmm. In this class of device, I'm just curious, when you're dealing with something as critical as, for instance, guaranteeing that you have an auto off on a stove, where does this live in the context of liability and risk that you guys undertake by enabling this kind of a home device?
Yeah. So, I guess one thing is, we do or will have liability insurance, and the cost is actually really low for a couple of reasons. One is you cannot remotely turn this on. You have to first kind of push in, if you cook often, you got to push in, turn it on, then you can use the remote features and the cooking features. And secondly, we have built in multiple layers of safety to ensure that if something goes wrong, if your Wi-Fi goes out, if the motor fails for whatever reason, that either you are notified, caregivers notified, somebody's notified. So for example, this is constantly pinging to our backend, right? That's how you see kind of where the position is on the app. But if this, for some reason, it's indicated or to go to low and it doesn't, our backend knows that because there's a position sensor in here that actually knows the exact position at all times. So then if for some reason it doesn't reach there, we ping you, or we ping, like we're actually working with fire departments. We can ping, the right people to make sure that, we're covered in terms of, something dangerous happening. If your Wi-Fi goes out, as soon as this loses connection to your Wi-Fi, it automatically shuts off. Obviously you won't get that notification, but your stove is off. So we built in those layers of safety to really make sure that from a liability perspective, we're limiting and mitigating any risks there. So yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. That's all I have. Great, again, great presentation, a great command of the content. So I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we've got a minute or so, and a couple questions came in through the chat. So unless Dr. Shante, you've got any other questions?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just curious as to what the feedback was maybe from Shark Tank, and did you get an offer? Just curious as to they do this kind of consumer market, product placement kind of a thing. And then I missed the slide on the price point. So if you can take me back there.
Yeah, sure. So Shark Tank, we did get an offer from Robert. There's obviously a lot that goes into the conversation. We were in the tank for like almost 2 hours, and it just wasn't a right fit in terms of the vision. Like, he thought this could be a quick sell, like, build some customers, don't raise any more capital, and then sell it to an appliance manufacturer. And that's not what we're trying to do. So we kind of, didn't line there. In terms of the feedback, people like Lori, the the consumer people loved it. But when we were on Shark Tank, we had just finished our first prototype. So we were not in a position where we were ready to ship. And for her, if you watch the show, like she says, I love this, but I don't see like something that's ready to go right now. And so unfortunately, and we knew that going into it, that ideally when you go on Shark Tank, you have product like Ring, like Jamie Siminoff, like he was able to capitalize on all of that visibility, but we didn't want to take that chance. And so we're like, once in a lifetime opportunity, let's just do it. But the great thing was that we got thousands of emails from potential customers telling us exactly why they want to use this. We had a bunch of different features before, and we really cut that down. It's so easy to over engineer, and we were able to get that feedback without paying for it. And so I think that was the biggest value for us. And then there are, some people like Mark who thought that nobody's going to be cooking ever in the future, and like delivery is going to take over. And so, I mean, they're those people, but we did get an offer, just didn't take it. And usually Shark Tank offers aren't that great anyway, so.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just really curious if they bit at all. And then I see you're charging per knob. So do I understand that correctly in saying a stove whatever, the burner stove or whatever it's called, would cost $300 essentially?
Correct. So we do this as a kit because we found from our consumer base that people only use maybe one or two knobs the most. So, they just buy one or two, and we want to initially just lower that threshold as much as possible to get the maximum number of devices out. If you do want to, install for your full stove, then yes, it would be an average of $300 depending on how many burners that you have. As we go towards the partnership side, where you as an individual aren't necessarily paying yourself, then we just do this as a full kit. So at some point we're doing 4 to 8 knobs through partners, and none of this kind of like 1, 2, 4 stuff. So.
Gotcha. I'm sorry, Laura, I saw the stop, and I just have one more question, I promise. Why recipe guidance? I see a lot of this, and are people really using that? Is that worth me paying an extra $3 a month?
So people have not done it right. So I think you either have the smart ovens, sous vide devices that give you recipes, but they haven't seen the growth and the conversion, because one, they don't have enough devices and enough product out in the market for that data to matter. So what we're trying to do is actually get enough devices out where we can start to understand what cooking behavior is like. We build, say, 100 recipes that are commonly used. We give that for free. Let's understand what people are cooking every day. Use that to then build more recipes and content based on history that you're not just looking at, but that can actually be sent to your appliance. So like I said, you have these people who are building new appliances, which are just not going anywhere. And then you have these people who are building smart recipes, but that have to work with an appliance that you have to buy, and you're paying for just looking at the recipe. So we don't want to charge for that. We actually want to charge for value. So like you said, at some point, like the Jetsons, can you just select that recipe, put what you need to on the pan, walk away, and then we'll take care of the rest. And I think that is something like a personal chef that people will pay, an extra $3 a month for.
Awesome. You're such a pro. Good job.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Steve. Thanks so much, Dr. Shante. Akshita, thank you so much for that pitch.